Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the On Your Terms podcast. I am your host, Bethany Archer, and today we are talking about being findable online and why it's actually incredibly important. So, my question for you is this: if someone were to go online searching for whatever it is you sell, salsa, bread, cookies, barbecue, whatever, in your local area, would you come up? Would you be hard to find? Would you be easy to find? Would you even be there at all? That is a very important question for us to ask ourselves because being findable online is growing more and more important every single day. Our world is it's becoming more and more digital by the day. And so we need to make sure that we are being findable online. And it's actually way easier than you might think, at least to get started. And no, I'm not talking about just on social media. I'm talking about Google. I'm talking about ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, the AIs, everything, all those, because people are moving to that more and more every single day. And within a year or two, searching like Google as we know it is going to be completely different. And it's all, I mean, as of right now, it is already very heavily AI focused. If you go to Google and search something, you're usually going to get an AI based answer right at the top of the page. And at some point, it's going to just kind of transfer to AI answers for almost everything. And so it's important for us as business people to understand that and to be able to be found in the midst of all of that. So, are you ready? Let's go. Let's talk about modern search behavior, right? Modern consumering, if that's really a way to put it. If you think about consumers, something that's like 90% of them do research online for business before they do any business with that business. And so what I mean by that is if somebody recommends you to a business or recommends you to a customer, that customer is likely to Google you and look you up first before they do anything else. 90%, that's a lot of people, will do research on a business before giving them any money. And in today's day and age, there is less trust than anything. You may have heard the term, you may have not. They're calling it a trust recession, where we don't trust anybody. We don't trust reviews anymore. We don't trust anything because AI content is everywhere and just like all this fakery, and people are always trying to rip us off. And while that doesn't impact as much the local food industry in and of itself specifically, there is still going to be some trickle down effect. People want to know. People are going to want to look you up just to see what other people have said about you, or whether you have an online presence. Or even let's talk about the reality of if I'm looking for something and I don't know what might be there. If I want to have, the best kolaches in my town or in my general area, if I'm really craving a good kolache and I want to go online and get one, am I going to go to ChatGPT and say, hey, where can I get the best kolaches near where I'm at? How does ChatGPT know what to recommend? How does Claude decide what it's going to tell people? These are all things that you need to think about because you want to be the one recommended for when people are looking for the best cookies or the best tacos or the best chicken noodle soup or whatever it is that you're selling. And if you are just not showing up, they have no way of knowing that you exist, unfortunately. And like I said, it's a pretty quick thing. You can establish a presence very, very rapidly. It's best to do it with a website and stuff, but you can do it you can take 20 minutes and get some stuff set up online, and I will go over that in just a minute. The thing that I want you to understand is it doesn't matter whether you're in a big city or not. It will still help you because okay, here we live in kind of a smaller town area. And so for some of the stuff that's out there in terms of, my fellow food vendors here that live in my area, there's not always competition. Sometimes there is, but there's not always. And so sometimes they might be the only show in town. But if they're the only show in town, then it's also quite likely that they're selling something maybe that's a little bit more unusual, and maybe people might not know that it's even there. Now, if we lived in a bigger city, then obviously people would know that it's there, but you're going to be dealing with more competition. And so either way, it's important for you to be able to be found online so that people know that you exist and so that you can be recommended before anybody else gets recommended. I mean, if you think about it, you live in a city, right? If you do, and you're working in this city and you're selling tacos, well, tacos are wonderful and everybody's got their own different take, but there's lots of taco trucks out there, let's face it. And so you probably have a lot of competition if you're in the city. So what makes it so that ChatGPT would recommend you above anybody else, right? It's often not what you think. And right now, the really cool thing is we kind of have a level playing field to deal with, which is really awesome. But that's also why it's important for you to get on the ball right now. So here's a case in point. So I work with this food truck here in town, and they have a pretty good following. They have really excellent, amazing food, but it's not something, it's not tacos. It's something a little bit different. And I, at one point, went into ChatGPT and I said, hey, where can I get this cuisine that they sell in my local area? And ChatGPT said, oh, there's nobody that sells that kind of cuisine in your area. You're going to have to drive to this city 2 hours away in order to get that kind of cuisine. And I'm saying, no, that's wrong. But I asked because I wanted to know if they would come up as one of the results for ChatGPT. Now, here's the thing. This particular owner does not have any kind of real estate online other than just they use Facebook, but they don't have, there was no website, there was no Google business profile, there was nothing set up. And so I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We are eventually going to build you a website, yes, but when I'm working with people, I try to go along with their pace because they need to be the one to maintain things. I'm not going to be maintaining a website for somebody who's not ready to maintain a website. So it's okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a Google business profile. It took me like 20 minutes. You create a Google account for your business and you set up a Google business profile. It's dead simple. It's so easy. And then that was it. But I wanted them to have an online business profile so that at least ChatGPT could know, hey, there is somebody in the local area who sells this type of cuisine. Because like I mentioned before, search and things like that, it's becoming more and more AI focused. Even if you yourself don't use AI whatsoever, I don't care if you're an AI hater, the fact is the world is moving in that direction. If you want to compete, then you need to be able to be found. So in order to be found, you need to have some kind of online real estate. In a Google business profile, it takes, like I said, 20 minutes. It's super easy. You can put in pictures if you want to, you don't have to, but that's it. Like, you're set once you do that. And it was, I went ahead and I set this up and that was it. I even created a Gmail address for them. And that was basically all we did. So we just kind of moved on with life. And a couple weeks later, I thought, oh, I should double check to see if we're in ChatGPT now. And here's the funny thing. It came up immediately. But not only that, but it came up immediately with some kind of and here's what people are saying about. And I thought, wow, that's weird. How did it get all that information? And I went and I looked, and sure enough, literally like a half an hour before I had searched it, this person had gone and left a review on their Google business profile. It was so funny. Just happenstance, I happened to check. But within 30 minutes of that review, I don't know if ChatGPT I'm sure it had him in the system before that. But within 30 minutes of that, ChatGPT was able to search and found the review and said, yes, people are saying this. And that's amazing. And so now if you search in Google, they actually now have another competitor that comes up, but they are the ones who are recommended first for this particular type of cuisine. Why? Because all we did was we set up a Google business profile and they got a review from someone. And I pointed it out and they were like, oh yeah, I remember that kid. And so it was somebody who he'd never eaten there before. And somebody had told him about it. So he went and he ate. And then he posted his review online. And the funny thing is I wonder how many Google reviews did they not get because they didn't have a Google presence or anywhere for people to leave the reviews. And so the reviews, they call this social proof. So I think most of us are intelligent enough to recognize when reviews are real and when they're not, right? It's obviously not always foolproof, but for the most part, we can kind of judge those things. And so having that kind of social proof is gold when it comes to your business. You want that. And so taking 20 minutes out of your time to set up a Google business profile is going to repay you in spades. I mean, like I said, 30 minutes, that's how fast the visibility can shift. Like 30 minutes in one review. And that's all it took. And we don't even have a website. We don't have a Yelp set up or anything. Just a Google business profile. And it did all that. Now, if this person lived in a bigger city where the cuisine maybe it would have a few more competitors, it might have not been so easy. But at the same time, the thing you'll have to remember is this shift towards AI is something that not everybody's getting on board with, and not everybody's really thinking about it or paying attention to, especially in the local food industry. We tend to be a little, okay, let's be nice about it. Let's sit a little bit behind on things that are involving digital marketing. People often are like, okay, how can I change my signage? How can I do this? How can I do that? But they're not necessarily thinking, how can I make sure that I'm found by AI when people are searching for it? You know what I mean? And so even if they did live in this big city, doing something simple like that, or maybe putting together a website, it could have a huge ramification on their business. Because the thing about that is here in our small little town, I don't know how many people in a given month are searching, hey, where's this particular cuisine? It's probably not a ton, but in a city, it's going to be a lot more. So you're going to have a lot more customers, a lot more potential customers. And if you can be the one found by ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, then you are in, my friend, you are in. So doing that is a huge thing. It's so important to be visible in that way. So let's throw some stats at you. Okay. This is how it's changing. Things are changing about how people find food and other products, but food. So my statistics, 97% of consumers are searching online to find local businesses. We're local, right? That's according to Bright Local. In 2023, they did a study. Google data says that 60% of quote unquote near me searches result in an in-person visit within 24 hours. 60% of those searches. Okay. So why are you not there? And that particular thing, most likely all you need is, again, a Google business profile. I mean, there's a lot more other stuff that you can do to strengthen your online presence, yes, but it all starts pretty simple. A lot of the time, even when somebody hears about you from a friend, they're still going to Google you before buying. They're still going to, if somebody says, oh yeah, try those brownies from Bethany, they're the best. People are still going to search for my brownies online to see what other people have said, to see, oh, is that an anomaly? Is that person just partial? Or is this really the consensus, the general consensus of the people that Bethany's brownies are the best or whatever, So if you're not searchable, if you don't pop up online, then the trail goes kind of cold. Now, I will say this. Anything you do on social media, it used to be that it would not show up in the search results. Now it does. So that does help, but that just reinforces what you need to do. It's not going to create a business profile for you. It's not going to create a place for somebody that they can go and leave a review for you. Because yes, people can review on Facebook, but not everybody operates that way. A lot of people prefer to go on Yelp or Google Business or other places too. And so it's important for you to have some kind of online presence set up there. You don't have to maintain anything most of the time. It's not like you have to post there or anything like that on a frequent basis, but you just kind of set up shop there so that there's a home there for something, information for people to be able to make their decision. So yeah, people are searching differently now. Another part of this whole what's changing is, again, like I was saying about AI tools. AI tools are now kind of the gatekeepers of search. It is estimated that within 2 years, it is going to be completely AI. When you go to Google or search or whatever, you're still going to have some traditional search results, but mostly your questions are going to be answered by AI. But not only that, people's behavior is slowly shifting. Instead of typing in a search like you would type in if you just want Google search results, people are typing it in more formatted for AI. What is the best place to blah, 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 instead of best cookies, my town, whatever. You know what I mean? So people are already shifting to searching that way. It is already happening. We are already there. We just need to understand that we are already there, and we need to be able to rise up to meet that demand so that when people are searching for what we have to sell them, that they will find us. There is a forecast called the Gartner forecast, and it had forecasted by this year, 2026, that AI would influence 50% of local business discovery decisions. In English, what that means is this: AI influences 50% of people making decisions that involve doing business with local businesses. That's you and that's me, my friend. So this is not something that we can ignore. And we need to be able to be found. This is not a shift that is going to be happening in the future. It's already here. It's happening. It's not finished, which is beautiful because that means that we have an advantage. If you are listening to this in 2026, then you have an advantage because things are not really set yet. And I firmly believe that those businesses that get those top spots by the time the dust kind of settles with all of this transitioning that's probably going to be happening over the next year and a half or so, I think those businesses are going to be difficult to unseat. I really do. And you cannot afford to be left out of the recommendations because this is signaling a shift of our entire culture where people are moving more of an AI recommendation way. And so you will be left behind if you're not visible online. So again, you need to be findable online, not just Facebook, not just Instagram, but you need to be found on Google and Gemini and Claude and ChatGPT and all of them. But the nice thing is it's not like you have to do a ton of work. You don't have to do everything individually. You just have to set up a little bit of real estate here and there. So another reason or another way that things are shifting a little bit is that people really, like I was saying, there's a trust recession, and people really vet businesses a lot more than they used to, and they do a little bit more research on them. In fact, the Bright Local of 2024 forecast and statistics said 84% of consumers trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. As much as that personal recommendation. 84%, my friend. And then there's the fact that businesses with 5 or more reviews get 4 times the clicks on Google. Like Google listings, when you're searching for something, I need a plumber in my area, and it shows the list of results. If you have 5 or more reviews, you are 4 times as likely to get, well, you get 4 times as many clicks as if you didn't. Okay, so you want those reviews, my friend. They are gold. And if you don't have a website or a map listing or anything like that, it doesn't seem like you're very legitimate. People are wondering if you're trustworthy. And so it's more about being trusted than it is about being found. It's about what to your average consumer today in 2026 makes a business look like they are trustworthy and legitimate. And so you need to be able to put that forward and say, look, I'm here. I'm trustworthy. I'm legitimate. Here's what people say about me. Here's what I have, yada, yada, yada. Being findable, because otherwise you might as well just not even be there. Now, again, let's talk about the difference between small towns and big cities, because it kind of functionally operates a little bit differently. But basically, if you're in a big city, you have a much wider customer base, but you also have much more competition. So again, it is very important for you to be able to get listed on that. But the benefit of that is that you are more likely, if you do, you're more likely to get a lot more traffic from it. Here in a small town, there's probably not going to be as much competition. But there's also not as many people searching because it's just a small area, but it's still important because things keep shifting and your town is probably going to continue to grow. And you still want to have that backup because, again, like 50% of people research online businesses or local businesses before they do any business with them. And if you lived in any kind of small town, at least seems like the ones that I have lived in, there's this constant thing about locally owned businesses that they are often not open when they say they are going to be, which drives me absolutely up the freaking wall. But it's true. And so I and other people I know, it's like people have gotten used to having to Google to make sure a place is open or like check their Facebook or check their website or whatever to see if a place is open, because we can't always rely on the standard hours. And so even that is another reason why you should be online, because people are going to look to see where are you at and when are you available. So the big question, of course, how does this benefit me? How does this turn into more sales? So one, visibility equals traffic. I mean, the fact is, the more visible you are, the more people are going to see you. Of course, the more people are going to discover you, the more people are going to come see you. They're going to go on their way because they found out about you. Now, trust is conversions. Trust is what is needed in order for people to give you their money. And I don't know if this applies as much to local businesses. There is a statistic that came out that talked about people needed like 11 touch points before they're willing to spend their money in a business, which is bizarro. But that has to do with the trust recession. People are just so burned out from being ripped off by all the spammers and the scammers. And of course, the economy is tough and things are hard right now financially for a lot of people. And so people tend to be very careful now. So we need to establish a lot of trust. The 11 touch points is kind of like they need to see you 11 times before they start to trust you. That's not always the case. And I think we as local businesses, and we're able to be face to face with people, we kind of shortcut some of that. But at the same time, it is still a thing. The trust recession still does exist. And so if we want to make conversions, if we want people to buy from us, they need to be able to trust that we're going to deliver what it is that we've promised. And so reviews and clear information and clear expectations are what are going to make people choose to go see you, as opposed to taking the easy road and going to McDonald's or whatever. And then the other part of it is that any data that you put on there is going to increase your discoverability. So menus and photos and structured information like keywords and stuff like that, it gives the search engine something to recommend. So let me explain for you for a second. AI, when they come back with their results, they base what they write on what you've written about yourself. So if I have something on my website or somewhere that says Bethany bakes giant gourmet brownies that are well loved by customers for their rich fudgy texture and all of the 4 different kinds of chocolate she uses, or something like that, I could write that. AI, if it is going to talk about me, it's going to say something very similar along those lines. And so when you write about yourself, when you're writing your descriptions or whatever, you want to kind of write with that tone, be a little bit evocative, and so that AI will say something similar, and then whoever's reading that result is going to be like, oh my gosh, that sounds so good. I'm totally going to try that. Does that make sense? I mean, because really what it is you might be doing the best stuff in town. You might have the best barbecue in town, but if Google and AI cannot find you, they're not going to be able to recommend you. And this is a tool that you cannot afford to sleep on. I mean, think about your online presence. It's not just a place for people to be able to find you, but it's a place for the machines to be able to kind of understand you and to understand what you have to offer, because the machines are becoming kind of the interim. It's the new interwebs, so to speak. I'm not sure how to explain what I mean. It's like the AI is just another middleman. And so we have to be able to speak in a way that AI will translate to the final consumer, who will then come to buy food from us. So let's talk about what being online and being findable actually means. Here's what I think. This is my starting point. This is what I do when I talk to people, when I consult with people. This is kind of the guide. First thing, a website does not have to be the first thing you do, but it is one of probably the biggest and most important pieces. Having a website gives you a legitimacy that you don't always have without one, obviously, but a lot of little people don't have that legitimacy. And so if you, as a small time local food maker, if you have one, that sets you apart in a way that other people are not. It's a perfect central hub spot for your story, your menu, photos, contact information. Okay, all of this great real estate where you can write a whole bunch of content about you and your products that and an AI will, again, it will grab that and translate that into answers for people. So whatever you write about yourself and your product on your website is what AI is going to use. And so you have a lot of leeway there, really. It also is a spot where you could potentially do pre-orders or custom inquiries if that is something that works in your business model. Even just like a one-page site is way more powerful than you would think. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, doesn't have to be anything fancy. And yes, eventually I will be teaching you how to do that too. Now, the most essential thing is I've talked about it several times, your Google business profile. You must do that. I don't want to hear any excuses. It takes like 10, 15 minutes and it is totally crucial. It gives you a spot to land for reviews. It's what powers the Google Maps. It's what powers those quote unquote near me searches on Google. It powers AI result. It powers so many things. And having a spot for you to get those Google business reviews, those reviews, once you get them, that is also going to have a huge impact of your ranking and the findability of you in your business. And you can set it up once and forget it. Now, I will say it's a good idea to update it every 6 months or a year or something, add new photos or something like that. Just, it's free marketing. You might as well. It's a very, very powerful tool, completely free. Okay, all you have to do is create a Google account for your business and you can set up your Google business profile that way. It is so, so, so simple. Now, similar to that, is I mentioned it before, Yelp, for those of us who, if your food business is suitable for Yelp, you need to be on Yelp. I mean, it's fairly simple. It's just an account you sign up for and you fill out the profile and put up your menu, your hours, yada, yada. It's very similar stuff, right? You can do all this in an afternoon. And it is what powers Apple Maps and Siri. And there's so many different apps that use Yelp data. And not only that, but each consistent listing that is in a different spot is going to increase your trustworthiness. So if somebody is searching for your business and they see Facebook posts come up and they see maybe you have a good review or a rating on Facebook, and then they look at your Google business profile and you have a great rating on there, and then they see there that you have a Yelp also with a great rating, they're going to know that you are somebody who can be trusted. They are just going to trust you that much more, and they're more likely to buy from you. And the cool thing is because you have existing customers, you can even ask them. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I just set up a Yelp profile and I would love it if you guys would come and review me, because that would really help me out. Because they want to help you. They really do. People care about you. They see you face to face. You're making awesome food for them. They care about you and they want you to do good. And so, yeah, they'll do it. Sometimes they won't because they're lazy or life gets in the way, whatever. But there's always going to be some people that will go out of their way to help you. And there's nothing wrong with asking for that. On a similar vein, if you can, I would recommend getting on TripAdvisor. Something that I had noticed when I was doing some of my AI research is that there was one of them, I think it was Claude, but they were like constantly quoting stuff that they found on TripAdvisor. And I thought that was really interesting. All the different AIs, I think they just kind of pull from different sources. And so TripAdvisor, not everybody can get on there, but if you can, it's a really great place to be on there because they do a lot of what are they called? The best lunch in whatever town or top bakeries near me or whatever. They do a lot of those kind of pages. So it's not just like a Google result or what Google thinks if you're asking that. It's a lot of the time TripAdvisor has already set those up. And again, those are indexable by Google and Bing and AI search tools and stuff like that. It will pull information from that. And the more of these touch points that you have, the more legitimate and popular you look to the AI tools, which is generally how they determine who to recommend. Is basically who's talked about the most. And the cool thing is it doesn't differentiate between when people are talking about you versus when you're talking about yourself. It's more about where all the different spots, which leads me to another one that I am a big fan of is local directories, or there's niche directories too. Like you can get listed in directories that are basically like classifieds or something like that for whatever it is that you sell. There's also local ones. You just have to do a little bit of creative searching. But these are businesses that generally sell ads. They have ad space, which is how they make money. But you can usually put a free listing on there. And that is particularly for me and my bakery is one of the things that put me on the top was when I got listed in a local directory. And it was funny because AI said almost verbatim what I had put in my description for that directory, which was indicative to me of how much it does rely on those. And the beautiful thing is those are generally free. So search around, focus on what's local, but also focus on what's, according to your niche. Not because you're actually expecting human eyes to see those, but that's more for the machines. Again, the human eyes are not going to see it as much because human eyes are going to become more and more dependent on the machines to interpret the data for them. The machines are now going to be the ones doing the web searching and figuring out what the best options are. And then they will come back to the people and say, here's what I figured out. And so you want to be one of those things that it figured out. Does that make sense? So now, of course, we'll talk about social media. You know by now that I'm not a giant fan of social media because it's unreliable, but it is still another touch point. So Facebook is a great social proof place. It's not very good for a storefront. It's not designed for that, but it is great for having updates and showing off your personality. And you can link to your menu or Google business profile or whatever. You can do however you want with it. But social marketing or social media is more about the conversation. It's not necessarily like a checkout. It's not a place to convert people. And then the other part of it is Instagram and TikTok specifically being such visual mediums, and that's what people go there for. If you are so inclined to make short form videos or take a lot of pictures, you definitely want to be on there just so that you can have that as a showcase for your food or your process or your behind the scenes or whatever. And lastly, kind of back to the local directories, is newspapers. Like, yeah, the actual local newspaper. Those can be gold mines because oftentimes they have a very well established history online. And so they are considered by AI to be a very credible source. So press releases or finding ways to get featured in your local newspaper, those can be very, very helpful for having some very targeted local exposure that again is going to translate the machines to the people. But the newspaper, the nice thing about that is there are actually people who still read the newspaper and there are still people who pay attention to that stuff. And sometimes they'll post about you on their Facebook if they've written an article about you. So you actually do get human eyes that way as well. Being featured in the newspaper or having press releases or whatever, it's a great way, really phenomenal way to get more exposure for your business and to get that online presence just cemented. Because again, the more touch points you have, the more solid the, I guess, structure of your online presence is going to be. And the more fleshed out it is like that, the more likely you are to be recommended for AI. The one thing is you want to make sure you're being very consistent. Consistency is key. You want to make sure you have the same websites. You want to kind of word things similarly. You want to link everything back to your website because, again, we're talking about machines, right? AI, if you say a whole bunch of completely different things, it's not necessarily going to know what to pick. It's going to pick one thing and leave out the rest. So if you can think of one kind of cohesive way to put things, and you're not putting the same paragraph everywhere, but if you're going to describe your business, kind of keep it similar along a similar vein so that AI can interpret this and say, okay, here's really what it's all about. And they will say, okay, this person makes the best this and the best this, and customers love their this. And that's what AI will understand. And therefore, that's what AI will give to whoever's asking them the question. Now, you might be thinking, Bethany, this sounds like a lot. I totally get it because it is kind of a lot. And I want to tell you that you don't have to do it all. In fact, please do not do it all right away, today, whatever. Don't. I don't want you to get overwhelmed and I don't want you to get burned out. I mostly want you to understand the importance of why. And I say this because I am involved with a lot of local discussion groups and things like that. as far as the local food industry. And over and over and over, I see people being very, very hesitant about digital marketing and online marketing and AI and stuff like that. And then they're like, oh, I'm just not making any sales. I mean, I just see people are keeping themselves small. And you have to understand that we live in today's world. And so if you want your business to grow to that life-changing level, you need to be able to compete and operate and function within today's world. But that doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. Like I said, I don't recommend it. You still have food to cook. You still have all kinds of things that you need to do. You just need to budget some of your time every week to do this digital marketing stuff and just take it a little bit at a time. But the first thing that I want you to do is do that Google Business Profile setup. I'm not kidding you. It changed absolutely everything for that food truck I helped. Now, did their business blow up immediately overnight? No, of course not. But it has helped. And now they are still the one recommended by AI months later. And the business has continued to grow, even though they haven't been able to be out as much. It's the cold time of year. So, but all of those things are important. And that one step that I took to build the profile blew them up online in a way that they were not before. So here's what I want you to do. Build your Google Business Profile. It worked. So here's what I want you to do. Go build yourself a Google Business Profile and then reach out to your customers and ask them, hey, would you please review me on Google Business? Because I just set this up and I'm so sad because it looks so empty, or whatever. Say whatever you want to say. But you can ask people to review you. And then maybe next you want to do Yelp. And then maybe next you decide that you want to build a simple website. And I can show you that too. But do the Google Business Profile. But actually, before you do that, I have a challenge for you. I want you to go to an incognito browser window. And I want you to search. You go to Google if you want, or go to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever. Just preferably one that doesn't know anything about you yet. Or do incognito with ChatGPT. You know how that works. Search for your product. Like if you sell cupcakes, best cupcakes near whatever your town is. See if you come up. Where can I buy homemade strawberry jam in whatever town? See what comes up. Do you see your business? What references and sources is it citing if you do? Or if you don't come up, who does? And what sources and references is being cited for them? Now that's a little bit of a advanced trick, I would say. If you don't come up, look at your competition and say, okay, where are you getting this information? And then you need to be there too. And this is your starting line. Now, here's the thing. I have actually created a tracker that is awesome. It's actually a whole audit process. It's like a worksheet. And it's available for you at bethanyarcher.com/start. It's a part of my startup packet, or I can't remember what I call it. The beginning packet, where you can set up an email list, but also the online visibility audit is a big part of it. So it gives you full instructions on how to do this audit, but in a more of a manual process way. And also there's a whole logbook where you can keep track of what you searched for, what position you showed up if you did, what sources were cited, things like that. And so this is a way for you to keep track so that you know the things that you do and how they impact it. So for example, you do this search and you don't come up at all whatsoever. And you're like, okay, so you write this down in your tracker. And then you decide to go create a business profile. So you write that down as well. I created a business profile on such and such date. And then you come back 2 weeks later and you search yourself again. Do you show up? If you do, what does it say? Things like that. This way you can actually keep track of your marketing efforts and what's actually moving the needle for you. And so I created this whole packet for you to do that. It's at bethanyarcher.com/start. Once again. And so this is kind of a starting point, a baseline, if you will, for your own business experiments, because I do always recommend doing a lot of testing and just evaluation just to see what is working for you and what is not. Now, when you do this, I would love to see your results. I would love you to show me a screenshot or tell me all about it. If you're on YouTube, let me know in the comments. If you want to hit me up on social media, I am on Facebook or Instagram as @BethanyArcherOfficial. Tag me because I'm so curious. I would love to see what kind of results that you have seen, even just from your first search. Because even if you have never thought about this and you search and you find yourself, it's always so interesting to see, okay, where did that come from? Because most of the AIs will actually kind of show you a little bit of a link where their source is. And even if they don't, you can ask them, hey, where did you find that information? And they will tell you. So to sum all of this up, again, we're basically just talking about how existing online in a very visible way beyond social media is crucial to customers and AI finding you. And the AI finding you is how customers often will find you. And they need to establish trust, and then they can buy from you. And so being visible online is a very important part to this, particularly if you live in a bigger city. Like I said, if you're in a smaller town, it's not as important maybe now, but you have the benefit of getting that foothold. If you do jump on it now, you have that foothold, which means in a couple of years, you would be very difficult to unseat. If some, young competition comes in and wants to unseat you, they would have to work very hard if you do this right. So it's definitely worth doing no matter where you're at, no matter what level you're at. You definitely want to get this done. So again, go download the starter pack at bethanyarcher.com/start and get that audit done, and then tell me all about it. I'm so curious. Now I will get out of your ear, but I want to just tell you thank you so much for joining me today. I'm just so excited every time I get to talk to you, and I will see you next week.